what would have made the difference if they had to decide between having an abortion or not having an abortion. And almost every woman said that if she felt there was one person who would be there for her and walk with her, not only through the pregnancy, but raising that child, if she felt like she had one person to support her, she would choose to carry the pregnancy. Roe versus Wade, an issue in the United States for decades, now effectively gone. How do you feel about that? This issue has created so much division in our country, both within and without the body of Christ. The pro-life and pro-choice camps seem entrenched, but there are some things missing from this debate that trouble me greatly. Who am I to talk about this? I'm DrCarol. I'm an OBGYN physician. I am a woman, and I am a follower of Jesus. I feel deeply about what is going on around this issue in our culture right now, and I'm really troubled. I am not troubled by the fact that the Roe v. Wade decision was overturned by the U.S. Supreme Court. I believe that on the whole, women and children and our culture are better for it not being there. But I am deeply troubled, frankly, about what we are not talking about. And I want to talk right here a little bit about what I think we should be talking about. So much of this debate focuses on the moment a woman decides to have or not have an abortion. And people are very loud in their opinions about whether she should be able to make that decision or not, and having what's available to her at that time. But that decision seems so external. We are glaringly not talking about the matters of the heart. When I talk to a woman who has struggled with that decision, it's never an easy decision. I'm sure there are exceptions, but I can't think of a woman that I have talked with where that was a simple or quick or easy decision. It is a rare woman, and there may be some. I don't know every woman in this country or on the planet, but no woman I have talked with wakes up one day and decides, I'm going to kill my baby today. I'm going to have an abortion and put my mind and my heart and my body at risk with scars that will be there and potentially carry a load of shame for the rest of my life that's going to make all kinds of things difficult in the future. No woman wakes up and says that. These are really tough situations. A friend of mine works at a crisis pregnancy center. She's been doing that for years. She's a very seasoned, godly woman, and ministers to the women who come there in all kinds of ways, their physical needs, their emotional needs, their spiritual needs. And from time to time, she will have the equivalent of, like a focus group, talk with these women together about their experience and so on. And recently, in one of these gatherings, she asked them what would have made the difference if they had to decide between having an abortion or not having an abortion. And almost every woman said that if she felt there was one person who would be there for her and walk with her, not only through the pregnancy, but raising that child, if she felt like she had one person to support her, she would choose to carry the pregnancy. What does that say to us about our disconnected culture? The thousands and thousands and thousands of abortions that have been done in our country. What does that say about the disconnected state that we are living in? And when a woman walks into an abortion center and there's signs there telling her she's going to go to hell, does that help her feel connected? That may be an extreme, and I'm just saying we are not talking about those matters of the heart. But even more than that moment, I think we need to back up even earlier in the sequence. We talk about what happens after a positive pregnancy test. What about what gets a woman to that place in the first place? We know how pregnancy happens. I doubt there's one person, listening to me who doesn't know how pregnancy happens. No sex, no pregnancy, no abortion. And we can, I mean, it comes down to that. Certainly, there are exceptions, and much has been made of the exceptions, and I don't want to minimize the trauma and hurt, whether it's, if it's rape or incest or even a seriously deformed fetus. Those issues absolutely deserve to be talked about. But what about the vast majority? All the others where an unplanned pregnancy happens and a woman is faced with the decision to have an abortion or not. All the birth control and everything else. What about the sex part itself? Are we even talking about what leads a woman to put herself at risk for an undesirable pregnancy or undesired pregnancy and be faced with that decision in the first place? I said a minute ago, no woman I have talked with wakes up one day and says, yeah, I think I'll kill my baby today. But what many of these women do wake up and say is, how did I get here? Now, it's not biology she's asking about, but how did I get in a situation like this where I'm faced with, frankly, what seems to be impossible choices? There's lots of different kinds of women that end up in that kind of a situation, and it's it's kind of dangerous to talk about stereotypes or categories. I found myself alone in a hotel room with a married man some years ago. I've told that story previously in one of these episodes. And I had to deal with what got me there. And it wasn't because I intellectually didn't know what was right or that I didn't have the ability to choose. I had to deal with the unfinished matters in my own heart that led me to get into that situation. Now, I didn't have sex, I didn't get pregnant, but that was a risk. What got me to that point? What gets women to these kinds of risky, damaging, situations? Now, there's all kinds, but a few. What about that 14-year-old girl who has no father? And male attention is something she craves. So when a young man who's not that much older than her offers her some male affection, well, sex happens, pregnancy happens, and she's faced with that decision. What about the 17-year-old girl who was exposed to pornography at age 8 or 9 and got easily hooked and has seen all kinds of porn, and the pathways in her brain say that's what you do, that's how you get love. And so she ends up having sex and is faced with having to make a decision to have an abortion or not. What about the college student who's been told in church since she was knee-high to a grasshopper that you don't have sex outside of marriage, you wait for marriage? She heard no, 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 but she's in college now. Nobody has ever helped her deal with her desire, her need for affection. Her hormones are raging. She starts to get involved with a young man, and it just happens. What about that woman who's recently left an abusive marriage? Horrible abusive, and she had to leave. She did leave, and now she's vulnerable and hungry for connection and intimacy, and she gets involved with a guy who seems nice and seems safe and seems to be treating her better, and sex happens. Again, huge variety of possibilities, but it's all about matters of the heart. Maybe you are one of those women who has found yourself waking up asking, how did I get here? I believe those are the things that we need to be talking about. That's what's missing in this whole debate, is addressing those matters of the heart. Now, for any of those women, or perhaps you've been here, the pro-choice side would say, well, just end the pregnancy. It's no big deal. Just end it. The pro-life people would say, don't. That's sinning. That's wrong. But are any of us helping women deal with the matters of the heart around these things? Whether it's around sex and sexuality, or even once there is that positive pregnancy test. I don't think we're dealing with those matters of the heart. I hope and pray that we can use this cultural moment to address some of these things, to ask some of these questions. Are there easy answers? Absolutely not. But I did a little thinking, and here are a few questions that I think would be appropriate for us to wrestle with. First, as individual followers of Jesus, have I been stewarding my need, desire, and capacity for intimacy as God would have me do that? It's deeper than just sex drives. It's the need for intimacy that God put within us. How have I been dealing with that as an individual? Have I addressed the wounds that I've accumulated, the empty places in my soul, the lies I have come to believe, especially in the areas around sex and sexuality? Where am I finding the connection my heart needs? And am I offering that kind of connection to anyone else? A few questions to wrestle with as an individual follower of Jesus, and then together as the body of Christ. A few questions that I believe we need to wrestle with would be something like, are we listening with compassion to those who have differing viewpoints or who may have experienced trauma, seeking to understand without compromising our beliefs? Can we listen and seek to understand? When Jesus addressed the matters around sex and sexuality and relationships and all of this with the people of his day, it wasn't with a condemning kind of way. It was a way of, I see you. He did that with the woman caught in adultery, or with the woman at the well who'd had 5 husbands. We don't know that she was promiscuous. Her husbands might have died, but she was seeking living water, and she was living with somebody who wasn't her husband, and Jesus said, I see you. I see the matters of the heart. Let's deal with this. Can we do that? How safe do those who are struggling with sexual issues or with unwanted pregnancies feel in our midst? Are we seen as a place where people struggling with these matters can really find help? I think too often the answer has been no. Can we become seen as a place where people struggling with these matters can find some hope, some help, somebody to walk alongside them? Can we help people, particularly young people, find healthy ways to address their need for intimacy instead of going to unhealthy sexual behaviors? God created us with the need, desire, and capacity for intimacy as human beings made in his image. God himself is a God of intimacy. He has so much intimacy between Father, Son, and Spirit. He's relational, so much oneness there that we are told to think of him as one God, and he is. We're made in his image with that same need, desire, and capacity. Sex is related in God's economy. That should be within covenant marriage. But we all, married, single, young, or old, have that need for intimacy. Are we addressing that? How can we help people, especially young people, address that need? In the body of Christ, shouldn't there be a place where unmarried people can find real intimacy? I'm not talking about sex. I'm talking about intimacy. the heart-to-heart connection with one or a few people, the kind of intimacy that Jesus, as a fully alive human being with that need, how did he address that? How did he seek to get those needs met in himself? Can we wrestle with these things? I believe these are some of the matters of the heart that we should be talking about. The legal issues are important. The medical issues are important. What happens after a positive pregnancy test is important. But what about these other matters of the heart? Can't we talk about that? Can't we wrestle with that as individuals and as a body of Christ? I hope so. I'd love to hear from you. You can comment under this video or use the contact page on our website to leave a confidential message for me. I will read them. I will respond personally. And I'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening and watching.